Gordon, welcome to Chamber Chat. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us who you are and tell us which organization you represent.
My name is Gordon Gerrard, and I'm the music director of the Regina Symphony Orchestra.
And how long have you been doing that?
Since 2016. So right now, currently in my 9th season as the music director.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And how are you loving Regina? Tell me.
It's great.
Yeah?
It's great, absolutely. I mean, this town is such an interesting mix of different kinds of people.
Yeah.
And I think for us, people who are more sort of in the world of the arts,
Yeah.
it's cool to see not only the arts lovers here, but the way that arts lovers here also love football. I mean, there's such an intersection of crowds here that is unique to Regina.
You find that interesting in the sense that you don't just, they're not pocketed in little groups, right?
People wanted to see whatever's out there. It doesn't really matter what it is sometimes.
And the Symphony Orchestra is an important part of our community, right?
Absolutely. The RSO has been around for over a century.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
It's incredible.
Is it not the longest running?
Yeah, so this orchestra started out in its sort of prototype form in 1908, which if you think about what Regina must have looked like in 1908.
Good point.
And someone decided, you know what, we're going to have an orchestra. That's pretty incredible to me. I think it speaks to the people that live here.
That's right. And you joined in 2016 following an icon in Regina, Victor Sawa, who I believe you have a relationship with, right? Or had a relationship with. Unfortunately, he's passed on.
Yeah, we lost Victor last spring.
Yeah.
But Victor left an incredible legacy.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He is still the longest serving music director of the RSO. He really went a long way from taking the music sort of off this pedestal and bringing it sort of to the people where people feel comfortable. And I think in a way he was ahead of his time when he did that.
I totally agree. I remember having a younger family at that time, and they're not anymore, and taking them to one of the outdoor concerts, and it was just brilliant, right? And but that's a way of connecting to the symphony, right?
Absolutely.
But you also went through some tough times in the pandemic. Tell me about that and how you got through it and what we're doing to correct that.
Yeah, I mean, when I signed up for this job, no one told me there was going to be a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
So we, like everybody else, had to hit pause for a while. We had a couple of let's try and start again, and then another sort of pause round 2. I can't even keep track of how many pauses there were. It was tough. But through the creative team members that work for the RSO, including our board, we came up with some workarounds. So we started doing things more that were on video. For example, we used to have this program. Well, we still have the program, but it's changed. The old version of what we called RSO in schools.
Right.
We'd send out a group of our musicians to, I don't know, we'd probably do 35 or 40 schools, elementary schools, each fall, and they'd go and play in the school gym. Well, we couldn't do that.
Right.
Because we couldn't get into the schools. So we shifted and we started putting things online, recording things so that they can be sent out to kids, whether they be at school, whether they're at home. And that really sort of kicked us into another way of operating that we hadn't really done before.
Are you still doing that today then?
I mean, to a lesser extent. We're kind of now trying to find the balance between, because everybody wants to be back in a room.
In person,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's also important for us to keep this sort of online presence, because there are kids, there are people that don't have access.
Right.
So it's important for us.
So tell me more about some of the outreach programs that RSO is doing.
Yeah, so we do a lot of work with schools. One of the projects we're doing this year, which we're starting up again, which we had to hit pause on, is this program called Link Up, which is actually, it's a program through Carnegie Hall in New York, and there's all sorts of orchestras, hundreds across North America that partner, and we prepare this show for kids. It's for grades 3 to 6, I think. And then they all are assigned ways to participate in the show itself. whether that's singing or clapping a rhythm or playing a recorder.
Right.
And then we bust them all into Connexus Art Center, and we will have around 2,000 kids that are
brilliant.
just there to play with the orchestra, to be part of the experience, not just watching, but actually participating. So
Get out. That's so good.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
we had such an amazing response to that before the pandemic, and we're so thrilled that we can get that going again, because connecting with that age group is so important.
Yeah.
You can probably, if you ask, well, certainly any musician, but I think lots of non-musicians, they remember that time when they were kids,
Yeah.
where they first saw an orchestra or even a smaller group of musicians. It just kind of, it sticks in your head.
Were you the same? Because I know you're a musician, of course, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Were you the same? Can you tell us that story?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, I grew up
yeah.
in the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
in Manitoba, so we didn't really.
Yeah, that'd be nowhere.
That's right. That's right. We didn't have an orchestra come, but we had. There was a smaller group of the Winnipeg Symphony that came
Yeah.
into Brandon. So we went into Brandon, and that was sort of a. I mean, it's a very memorable thing for me, just to experience that, the sound, also just the sort of visceral feeling of,
Yeah.
of the music in that way. You can't really recreate it in any other way.
And that truly is a reason why you fit into Regina, because you're from that smaller area and you actually understand Regina, a prairie town,
Absolutely.
agricultural based, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up basically halfway between Winnipeg and Regina.
Okay.
So I know this part of the world very well, and the
Yeah.
people who live here.
So you have actually spent a lot of time in Western Canada, but throughout Canada. Tell us a little bit about your background, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I grew up playing the piano. I'm sure my parents had no intentions that I would become a professional musician, let alone a conductor, but they
Right.
wanted the kids just to be well-rounded people.
Yeah.
So I was lucky in that they gave me the opportunity, and my siblings the opportunity to learn how to play the piano. And I started when I was 7, and I just kind of never stopped. So I went on to study music in university, did a master's degree in New York City, which was,
Oh, brilliant.
for a
yeah.
kid from the farm in Manitoba, that was quite
It's a rude awakening, isn't
it
it?
was quite the switch, absolutely. And then I've actually now lived in pretty much all of the provinces in Canada,
Yeah.
except for the Maritimes. So I've worked in different capacities, different companies, either orchestras, opera companies, throughout Canada. So I've been very lucky.
And we're very lucky to have you here. That's
thank
it's brilliant. So let's go back to the RSO in terms of drawing more people in. Like truly, it's gate driven in a way. You got sponsors, etc. How's the revenue done by the RSO? Because that's an important piece, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what people may not realize is that our revenues come from basically 3 different sources. We do get support from the government,
Right.
through grants. There are lots of businesses that sponsor us.
Right.
That's a huge help for us. It helps us to keep things going and to grow. And of course, then the third part is what we make from selling tickets.
Yeah.
So it's this combination of these 3 sources that keeps the RSO, keeps the lights on.
Right. Which is an important piece. So how are we making out with subscriptions and ticket sales?
It's a really interesting thing, and this is a trend that we're seeing across, I would say, North America. It was happening before the pandemic, where people were less interested in committing to a subscription,
Yeah.
especially a full season.
Right.
The notion for most people to think, okay, it's May right now, I'm going to buy a ticket for something that's next April.
Yeah.
It's just not how people think anymore.
Yeah, that's
It's so for so many people. So that was already happening, and then the pandemic just sort of added gasoline to that
Yeah.
trend.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really changed. So we rely more on single tickets, generating the interest of people come this time, and then just staying on people's radars to think, oh, hey, I had a great time
Yes.
2 months ago. I'm gonna check out this next one that's coming, as opposed to I've got tickets for the whole season.
You still have those.
Of course, and
but-
we love it when people
but-
do that.
But these one-off ticket sales really become a sampler in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can pick and choose, because one of my goals when I program what we're doing is I'm trying to find a little bit of something for everybody.
Yes.
So, I mean, there are people that only want to hear, Beethoven, Mozart, Tchaikovsky,
yeah,
the classics. And there are folks who only want to go to pop shows.
Right.
We did a show, the music of David Bowie, and for some
Brilliant.
people that's more their thing.
Yeah.
But there's lots of folks that actually kind of want to do a mix of
Yeah.
the two. So there are options for all of those things.
So what can we see in the upcoming months in terms of shows?
So we're heading into Christmas season, of course. So we have our Christmas Pops show coming up with Belle Plain, who's one of my very
Yes.
favorite local artists. And then we do Handel the Messiah every year.
Yeah.
That's coming up. And then we take a little break for Christmas, and then we launch back into both pops and classics in the new year.
And I know you got a great staff. They allow people to know what's coming up, and there's all sorts of ways to connecting with the RSO, correct?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we're always trying to reach people, and certainly through social media. I think actually right now, if you drove down the streets of Regina, you might even see a billboard
Yeah.
with my picture on it.
Oh, that's great, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I have to say, it's a little weird when you're driving down the street
Hear
and you
ya.
see yourself up there. But anyway,
Good for you.
yeah, and then of course we're always just trying to reach people where they're at.
Right.
And things like this. It's great to just tap into other networks of where people are gathering and collecting information.
And I think you honestly are doing a good job of that. It's just people like myself need to get our butts out of our couches and get out to the shows, right?
I mean, I wouldn't have put it that way, but yes.
Well, I'm a farm kid, so.
I mean, I think one of the big things that I've noticed since after the pandemic is that people's habits change significantly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, even though we were forced to stay home for a while, I think a lot of people really kind of liked that.
Yeah, oh, it's
And so
true.
now we're trying to get people out again, and that's part of what community is.
Yeah, truly I agree. My background is I spent some time with the Saskatchewan Roughriders in marketing, and I think the same thing is happening in sport, right?
For sure.
And there's some analogies there and some similarities, I think. Yeah. And it really is about being out in the community, being part of the community.
Yeah, and I think anyone who lives in, Regina, any city, it's like we have to choose, what kind of community do I want to live in?
Right.
And what should I do to help make that happen? And staying at home on your couch, while sometimes it's nice, we're not going to have the kind of community that we all want to live in if we don't take that step, each one of us.
And most people, I'm sure, like me, once you get there, you have a phenomenal time.
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
Like, I don't think I've really encountered maybe anyone who's been to an RSO show and said, oh, that wasn't for me.
No,
everyone is
doesn't
blown
happen.
away by these amazing musicians that are on stage. This sort of visceral feeling that you get from sitting in the room with an orchestra. It's just getting people through the door. That is a challenge these days, it seems.
And truly will probably continue to be a challenge, but good people like yourself will help draw them out, I think.
Yank them out.
Exactly, yeah. No, that's perfect. Speaking of community, I'm really interested in the Indigenous Advisory Council, is it called, for the RSO town?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a bit.
So when I came in 2016, I was very lucky because one of our board members, who is since no longer on our board, you can't stay on our board forever, even if you want to.
No, that's the way it should work.
Absolutely. Audrey Young is her name.
Yeah.
And she's First Nations, from Cowessess First Nation. And she is a powerhouse, and she came to me basically early on when I was, figuring out what the RSO was going to be, under my tenure, and we really thought it was time to talk about reconciliation
Good.
how does an orchestra interact? What's the responsibility of an organization like ours to reconciliation? And so we started planning projects that were intended to both engage Indigenous folks, but also to open the eyes of non-Indigenous folks to what's out there.
Yeah.
Indigenous artists, Indigenous music. And so in order to build these projects, we decided early on that we couldn't do it on our own. And so having a council of Indigenous folks who are connected to this community and Indigenous folks around Regina as well, that's really the only way
Yeah.
to do this kind of work. So that's where that started. And we did a lot of great projects together, and I learned a lot. I think in retrospect, that part of the job was the steepest learning curve, but I think the most rewarding for me. And and unexpected. When I signed on the dotted line to take the job, I didn't think that was
wasn't part of it. Yeah.
So that was really a magical thing, and I really credit Audra for that.
So take that a little farther. What kind of programs or what kind of work is being done through that area in the Indigenous programming?
So one of the shows that we're working on, for example, in future, is this. It's a really cool piece called "The Spirit Horse Returns." It's more intended for young audiences.
Yeah.
It's basically a story through music about the resurgence of these Ojibwe ponies, and there's actually, it's amazing how worlds collide. And so there's a guy in Winnipeg who's a professional musician. He plays in the Winnipeg Symphony. He also raises these horses. So he decided, we're going to build this show for kids to teach them about the history, what has happened, what is happening. And so bringing that kind of story together with music, that's one of our projects that we're going to aim for next year.
So how, like, I love the fact that you're kind of focused on youth, and certainly that's the next generation of subscribers, right?
Absolutely.
And does the Symphony, and I know they used to, go out and do some education in different areas, like, or get people playing musical instruments?
Oh, well, I mean, we do have programs where we help kids who are underprivileged.
Yeah. Good.
To give them access to lessons, and in some cases instruments. This is all part of what we're trying to rebuild after basically COVID shut it all down.
Yeah.
So, but certainly the educational aspect, reaching these kids is it's paramount for all of us.
And working with partners like the Regina Public Library, which actually will loan out instruments, I'm guessing, and no doubt Megan from your office has helped kind of put that together.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
guess.
Yeah, and RPL's been a great partner. One of our most successful series, I would say, attendance-wise, has been the free library series.
Yes.
Which happens at the downtown branch on Sundays throughout the year, and most of the time when you go, there's actually not enough chairs.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so when I see that, I think there's such a need to provide this for folks that want this in their lives. So it's really rewarding to see that.
Yeah, and the fact that they can actually get that in a public place for no money down kind of thing, right? It's important. So those partnerships are far-reaching. Even the Chamber of Commerce is probably, my guess, a very important partnership for the RSO.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we're always trying to revisit and I guess underline is that we exist also because of the support of the business community in Regina. And so we want to make sure that people remember that we're here, and that that we can offer something to them personally, but also for their business as well.
Absolutely. So that is actually, prior to getting on here, we talked about the fact that I'm a part of your target audience.
Right.
And I need to get my butt off the couch using that again.
Right.
out there, but I think a part and parcel of it is having great leadership with the organization. So you should be very, very proud of the work you've done.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to add prior to us just kind of wrapping up our 20-minute little chat?
Well, I want to say thank you, first
Yeah.
of all, but I just also want people to remember that we have all sorts of things that are really designed for everybody. And what I want people is to be brave enough to take a chance on something that they don't know if they're going to like.
Yes.
That's my challenge to people.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, if you come, you don't like it, you don't have to come again.
Yeah, fair enough, but they
I
will.
just want people to
Yeah.
try and then bring some friends.
Take the leap.
Absolutely.
Gordon, thank you so much for
Hey,
joining
it's
us
my
on
pleasure.
Chamber Chat.
Great to be
Appreciate
here.
it.
Thank you very much.
Chamber Chats is produced bi-weekly by Skycron as a service to the Regina business community. We produce many series, including the television series Go Nitro for NBC Sports, CBS, and Fox, as well as corporate videos, events, and live streams, all right here in Saskatchewan. We can do the same for you. If you have a video project for your organization, call us at 306-720-0097. And let's get started on your next project.